Hi everyone, tonight we're going to wander somewhere you really shouldn't go alone, an abandoned hospital, the kind of place where walls still remember the screams. Yeah, I know, fantastic idea for bedtime, right? Who wouldn't want to fall asleep thinking about peeling paint, broken windows, and something waiting in the dark halls? Trust me, you won't survive the night well, not if you go there in person. But if you stick around here with me, I promise the only thing that's going to grab you is the blanket you're clutching a little tighter. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really like what I do here. That way, when the next spooky midnight bus pulls up, you'll already have your seat reserved. And hey, let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is. I like to see who else is awake at these ridiculous hours. Now turn off the lights, maybe turn on the fan for some soft background music. And let's get started tonight. The story opens with the last bus screeching to a halt at the edge of town. The driver doesn't speak, doesn't even look in the rearview mirror, just jerks his thumb at the passenger. This is your stop. Outside, the night air tastes metallic, heavy, like it's been waiting too long. And there it stands, the hospital. Massive iron gates chained together, padlock rusted, yet somehow open just wide enough for a single person to squeeze through. He hesitates, of course. Anyone would. Hospitals are supposed to be safe places of healing, but this one, its windows gape like broken teeth, its facade streaked with rain and soot. Every story you've ever heard about urban explorers, thrill seekers, and lost souls rushes through your head. They say a group of teenagers tried to spend the night here once. Only one made it out, and she never spoke again. They also say the building still has power, though no one's paid the bills in years. And then there's the weirdest rumor of all. Sometimes patients still check in. That first step through the gate feels like crossing a line you can't uncross. Gravel crunches underfoot, and with each step, the air grows colder. The weeds seem to lean in, pointing the way forward. The passenger looks back, bus gone, road empty. He's already trapped. At the front entrance. The double doors sag on their hinges. One swings open with a moan, almost as if it's been waiting. He tells himself it's just wind, but the truth is, the air is still. Inside, the smell hits first. Mold, dust, and something faintly sour, like disinfectant, that's rotted over time. His flashlight beam cuts through the dark, bouncing across the reception desk, overturned chairs, and a long corridor stretching deeper into shadow. Footsteps echoed, not his own, or at least, not in rhythm with his. He freezes, the sound stops. He takes a step forward. Another footstep answers, half a beat late. And then there's a detail that doesn't fit, a fresh footprint in the dust. Not just one, but a trail, small and narrow, leading into the heart of the hospital. Too crisp to be old. The longer he stands there, the louder the silence becomes. Somewhere above, a window rattles. Somewhere below, water drips. Somewhere close, the gate slams shut with a crash that reverberates through the entire building. He runs back to check, but of course there's nothing there. The doors are closed, and the lock is gone. That's when he realizes the hospital doesn't let people leave. Not anymore. Can you guys get out of this? Or are you stuck already? 3 impossible stories flicker through his mind. A janitor still sweeps the halls at midnight, even though he was buried 50 years ago. A nurse guides lost visitors toward the ICU, but when they thank her, her hands leave bruises that last for days. And sometimes, the intercom crackles to life, announcing names of patients who were never born. He grips his flashlight tighter and forces himself forward. The corridor stretches out, and with each step, the hospital seems to inhale. And that's where tonight's nightmare begins, standing alone at the locked gates of a place that doesn't stay abandoned for long. The first corridor feels endless, lined with broken gurneys, chipped tiles, and walls that look like they've been clawed from the inside out. Every step the passenger takes seems to wake something slumbering in the plaster. His flashlight stutters for a moment, and in that split second of darkness, it feels like the hallway grew longer. You ever get that sensation, like the room you're in is subtly rearranging itself when you're not looking? Yeah, that's exactly what's happening here. The echoes are the worst part. His shoes crunch on scattered glass, and the sound bounces back to him, but just slightly late, like someone else is following a second behind. He whips the light around, but all he sees are cracks, spiderwebbing through plaster, and the faint glow of a fire exit sign dangling by a single wire. He reminds himself, hospitals are built for echoes. It's all acoustics. But acoustics don't explain the voice that whispers his name. The voice is faint, feminine, but it's not coming from ahead, it's behind him. He spins, nothing but darkness, and then the flashlight beam catches something weird. A wheelchair, pristine, untouched by dust. A folded blanket rests across its seat, as though someone has been waiting. He doesn't dare touch it. Instead, he backs away, only to hear the squeak of wheels as though the chair rolled a little closer. Now here's the strange part, the weird, unrelated detail. Taped to the wall above the wheelchair is a children's drawing. Crayon colors, stick figures holding hands, a smiling sun in the corner. But the faces of the stick figures have been rubbed out with something sharp. The passenger forces himself deeper down the hall. Fluorescent lights overhead flicker alive for a moment, buzzing, then die again. In the brief light, he swears he sees figures in hospital gowns, standing motionless at the far end. When the lights blink off, the hallway is empty. The silence afterward is deafening, broken only by the sound of something breathing. Not him, not even close. Can you guys get out of this hallway? Probably not. The impossible stories creep back, as if whispered directly into his ear. A patient once walked the halls carrying her own for stand. Even though the hospital had been closed for decades, an entire ward was heard chanting lullabies in unison, yet no one could find the ward itself on any floor plan. A man ran until he found an exit door, only to open it and step back into the same hallway. Still running, the passenger's flashlight beam finally finds a set of double doors with faded red letters. I see you. The handle feels cold, colder than the air around it. He pulls. The hinges squeal like an animal being skinned alive, and then it comes the sound that makes his blood ice. Dozens of overlapping footsteps, running, sprinting toward him from somewhere deep within. He holds his breath. Silence. Then a single hand slaps the glass window of the ICU door from the inside. The palm print smears down, leaving behind something dark and wet. His heart hammers. He doesn't know whether to run forward or back, but either way, this hospital has made its choice. He's not leaving the hallway without a fight. The ICU doors stand like a gatekeeper, their peeling paint and greasy glass panes framing the unknown. Our unlucky passenger stares at them, every nerve in his body telling him to back off. But curiosity is a poison that's hard to shake. With trembling fingers, he presses the handle down again. The door groans open, reluctantly, like something on the other side doesn't want to be disturbed. The air changes immediately. It's colder, sharper, carrying the scent of iodine mixed with rot. Rows of hospital beds stretch out, some overturned, others neatly aligned, as if waiting for patients that never came. His flashlight dances over 4 poles, brittle as skeletal arms, and oxygen tanks rusting into nothing. Here's the creepy event. Standard issue. One of the beds creaks. He swings his light toward it, and the mattress sinks as though invisible weight has settled onto it. The blanket slowly pulls itself up, tucking in corners with mechanical precision. Someone or something just made a bed. And then comes the weird detail. On the far wall, amid peeling paint and mildew, is a giant clock. Not a standard hospital clock, but ornate, almost gothic, with hands shaped like needles. It ticks normally, yet its minute hand jumps forward 3 times in a row, stopping directly at midnight. The second hand doesn't move at all. He takes a step closer, but the overhead speakers crackle to life. A woman's voice, distorted, rings out, "Code Blue, I see you, Code Blue." The announcement repeats, over and over, static eating the words at the edges. But the hospital has been shut for decades. No power, no staff, no reason. Unless, of course, the staff is still here, just not the kind with pulses. The flashlight sputters again. In the brief blackout, impossible stories rush into his thoughts. They say nurses still walk the ICU, carrying clipboards and whispering patients' names, though no one has ever admitted. A surgeon's shadow was seen moving along the wall, holding a scalpel, but the room it came from was empty. Some swear the intercom once called their own names, even though they'd never checked in. The passenger dares to lift the flashlight toward the ceiling, and that's when he sees them, shapes clinging to the rafters, hospital gowns fluttering like shrouds, bare feet dangling, eyes reflecting pinpricks of light like cats. The figures cling motionless until the speaker cuts out. Then, one by one, heads tilt down. His pulse is a drumbeat. He stumbles backward, nearly tripping over a gurney. The wheel squeals against the tile, and every dangling figure turns in unison to the sound. Their faces aren't quite human, pale, stretched too long, with mouths that never close. The flashlight beam jerks wildly across the floor, landing on a pair of surgical scissors. For some reason, they shine bright, untarnished, like they were dropped only minutes ago. He picks them up, even though he doesn't know why. Maybe as a weapon. Maybe just because he needs to hold something real. But then, the first figure drops from the rafters, landing silently on the tiles, less than 10 feet away. The others begin to unhook themselves, one after another, a grotesque rain of bodies. "Can you guys get out of this? I see you." Doesn't look promising. The passenger bolts for the far side of the ward, pushing past overturned beds and scattering instruments. The scissors rattle in his grip, the metal clinking with every desperate step. Behind him, he hears the scuttling of feet on tile. Fast and relentless, he slams through a smaller side door and finds himself in what looks like a surgery prep room. The smell is overpowering, bleach and coppery undertones. Stainless steel tables are lined with cracked leather restraints, scalpels laid out as though a procedure had just been interrupted. On the wall, painted in flaking red, is a single word: stay. That's when he realizes the scissors in his hand aren't scissors anymore. They've changed now. It's a key, an old brass key, warm in his palm. And if there's a key, there's definitely a door. The problem is, which one leads out, and which one leads deeper in? The key in his hand feels heavier than it should, pressing against his palm as though it doesn't just open doors, but choices. He scans the room. 3 doors, each one identical, peeling paint, rusted handles, no signs above them. But something deep inside him insists only one will work. He picks the middle door. The key slides in smoothly, like it's been waiting centuries for this exact hand. The lock clicks, loud and final, and the door swings open into a narrow corridor lined with barred windows. Beyond them, nothing, just endless blackness, as though the hospital is floating in a void. The creepy event arrives fast. Every barred window rattles in unison, metal clanging against the frames. A gust of wind rushes through the hall, though the glass remains intact. He ducks instinctively, pressing against the wall as if the sound alone could tear him apart. Weird detail incoming. On the floor beneath his feet, he notices numbers etched into the tiles, not scribbled, but engraved, neat and deliberate. 7, 13, 21, 34. The sequence climbs steadily, some kind of impossible pattern stretching the length of the corridor. The numbers pulse faintly, as if alive. He whispers them aloud without realizing, his tongue moving to rhythms older than language. A shiver passes through him. He turns to check behind, and the corridor is longer now. The door he came through, gone, in its place. The corridor stretches infinitely in both directions. Here come the impossible stories. Some explorers claimed the locked ward had no end. They walked for days but never reached a wall. Others reported hearing their own footsteps echo ahead of them, as if someone wearing their shoes was always one step further down. A few swore they saw mirrors instead of windows, each one showing themselves years older, years dead. Our unlucky passenger keeps moving, clutching the key, because standing still feels like surrender. His flashlight beam quivers over the barred windows, where shadows now press against the glass. Pale hands reach through, grasping, though the glass never breaks. Their mouths move, whispering, though no sound escapes. The corridor suddenly narrows. The walls press closer, squeezing him, forcing his breath shallow. The numbers on the tiles blur together, the sequence spinning in his head like a chant. He stumbles forward and finds another door, this one small, wooden, ancient, compared to the rusting steel of the hospital. The brass key glows faintly, begging to be used. He hesitates. Behind him, the whispers from the windows grow louder, almost forming words. "Stay with us. Stay." The walls groan. The corridor seems to tilt, like the entire hospital is shifting on its axis. He jams the key into the wooden door. It resists, turning slowly, painfully, until it clicks. The door swings open onto a child's room. Tiny hospital beds line the walls, each with faded stuffed animals placed neatly at the foot. The wallpaper is peeling, but cheerful bunnies, balloons, pastel colors dulled with age. And in the center of the room, a rocking horse sways gently, though no one is there to push it. Standard creepy detail. The rocking horse stops, dead still. Then, slowly, it turns its head, not the whole horse, just the carved wooden head toward him. Its painted eyes glimmer wet, alive. Weird detail. On the far wall, a mural of smiling children, except their faces are smudged out. erased, leaving only bodies with blank ovals where joy should be. His flashlight flickers. He feels the bed closest to him dip, like a small weight just sat on it. He doesn't dare look, not until a giggle, faint and metallic, fills the room. And then the impossible happens. All the stuffed animals turn their heads at once. Button eyes glint. Stitches stretch into jagged smiles. The rocking horse creaks forward, hooves thudding against the tile. Can you guys get out of this? Not looking good. The passenger staggers backward, almost tripping over the engraved numbers that have somehow followed into this ward, carved even into the toy blocks scattered on the floor. He grips the key tighter, though it's losing its shine. The giggle comes again closer, sharper. A shadow darts between the tiny beds, too fast to follow. Then another, and another, until the whole room buzzes with movement. The rocking horse slams against the wall, splintering wood. The stuffed animals slide closer, legs twitching. He knows there's another door here. There has to be. Every room has a way out. The question is whether he'll find it before the toys do. The door in the children's ward gives way, not with a key this time, but with a shove. Hinges groan like they haven't moved in centuries. Beyond is a hallway charred black, its walls warped, its ceiling sagging with soot. The burned wing. Every step crunches on shattered glass and flakes of charcoal. The air smells of ash and something older, sour and metallic, like dried blood. He raises his flashlight, but its beam barely cuts the smoky gloom. This place doesn't want to be seen. Standard creepy event. A sudden cough echoes from the far end of the corridor. Not his cough. Deeper, rattling, wet. It comes again, closer, then silence. His pulse hammers in his ears, and he realizes he's holding his breath. Weird, unrelated detail. The blackened walls are scratched with symbols. Not letters, not numbers, just looping spirals and jagged lines, like a child tried to draw storms. But here's the strange part. The soot hasn't covered them. They're raw, bright, almost glowing beneath the torchlight, as if the fire respected these marks, leaving them untouched. He remembers whispers he's heard before, stories about this burned wing. One impossible tale says the fire started not with sparks, but with screams, spreading like flame down the hall until walls cracked and burned. Another says doctors were seen walking calmly through the smoke, carrying torches, smiling. And some say the patients were locked inside, and you can still hear their fists pounding on the doors when the wind rushes through. The key in his hand feels hot, not glowing, but feverish, as though it knows this wing was never meant to be opened again. He keeps moving. The corridor splits left and right. On the left, a collapsed ceiling blocks the way. On the right, another hallway stretches into shadow, lined with doorways. Some doors hang from broken hinges, others are fused shut by melted handles. He picks the right. The first room he enters is a ward. Burnt bed frames are twisted like skeletons, sheets blackened to ash. On one bed, unbelievably, there's still a patient chart clipped to the frame. He brushes off soot to reveal the words, admitted 1923, discharged, never. The paper crumbles in his hand, and then the sound starts. A faint crackling, not fire, but whispers. He looks up to see shadows moving across the ceiling, like people pacing above, though the floor above was destroyed decades ago. They circle, shuffle, whisper. None of them look down. He moves to leave, but the doorway closes by itself. Black smoke creeps along the floor, curling like snakes, coiling around his legs. His flashlight flickers, dimmer, dimmer until it dies. In the darkness, red embers flicker in the corners of the room, eyes coals. He can't tell, but one thing he knows, they're moving closer. He fumbles with the key, desperate, shoving it toward the door, though there's no lock. Somehow, impossibly, it works. The door groans open just enough for him to squeeze through, and the smoke doesn't follow. It slams shut behind him with a bang that shakes the hall. He leans against the wall, gasping. The soot marks on this wall are different. He wipes a hand across them. Not soot, handprints. Thousands of black handprints, layered over each other, pressed into the wall as though every patient in the wing left their mark before burning. "Can you guys get out of this?" he mutters, half to himself, half to no one. His voice feels too loud here. At the end of the hall, a set of double doors waits. Above them, in faded gold letters, a sign still clings. Surgical theater. The burned wing is silent now, waiting, watching. He knows the next room won't be any safer, but at least it will be different. And different, in this hospital, is the only kind of hope left. The double doors resist at first, swollen by years of smoke and water damage, but with a grunt he forces them open. A stale draught spills out, cold as a cave. The room beyond is cavernous, circular, arranged like an old lecture hall. Stone steps curve upward in tiers, surrounding a central operating table. Rusted surgical tools lie scattered around its scalpels. Bone saws, clamps all blackened with soot, but still sharp, still waiting. The table itself is scorched but intact. Leather straps hang loose, stiff and cracked. He sweeps his flashlight across the seats. Rows and rows of shadows, empty at first glance, but then, for an instant, he sees them, figures seated in every row, their heads tilted down as though studying notes, not moving, not breathing. Just there he blinks, and the seats are empty again. Only dust and silence. Creepy event. The overhead lights flare to life with a snap, though no power should reach this wing. They burn harsh and white, humming with energy. The operating table shines under their glare like a stage, waiting for the show to start. And then comes the sound of footsteps. Not his. Slow, deliberate, descending the tiers toward him. But there is no one there. Just the echo of boots on stone. Closer, closer, until it stops right above the table. Weird, unrelated detail. On the wall near the podium, he notices a faded chalkboard. Scrawled across it in jagged white chalk are the words, "Observe the silence." Beneath it, dozens of tally marks, etched over and over as though someone was keeping count. But count of what? Patients, experiments, attempts. He looks back at the table. One of the straps twitches, not false twitches like a muscle flexing. Then, another. Then all of them snap taut, whipping against the table as though restraining something invisible that rides there now. The air hums, vibrating his bones. The gallery seems to fill with unseen bodies, their breaths ragged, their whispers crawling across the room. He catches fragments, cut deeper, stitch faster, no pulse. Again. He stumbles back toward the door, but it slams shut with a metallic clang. He rattles the handle. Nothing. The key in his pocket burns. When he pulls it out, it's glowing faintly, illuminating the straps as they strain and creak. His instinct says not to use IT, but the key seems to want the lock. He shoves it into the operating table itself, into a small brass plate near the base he hadn't noticed before. The straps fall limp. The whispers cut off mid. Silence rushes in, deafening. And then a shadow stands at the head of the table, cloaked, faceless, hands clasped behind its back like a professor preparing to lecture. Its presence fills the room without a sound. The lights above flicker, dimming, leaving the table bathed in red glow, as though lit from below. The shadow leans forward. It has no mouth, no eyes, yet he feels it smiling. Somewhere in the upper tiers, unseen students begin to clap, slow, polite, echoing. He doesn't wait to see what lesson comes next. He bolts for the door, key in hand, shoving it into the lock. This time the door opens, and he spills back into the burned hall, gasping. The applause still chasing him. Behind him, the doors slam shut. A whisper snakes through the cracks. Class dismissed. At the end of the east wing, past broken gurneys and cracked plaster, a stairwell yawns open. The railing is twisted, and the steps plunge into pitch. Everyone says the basement was sealed after the fire, but the boards nailed across the door are torn loose, as if something pushed out, not in. He pauses at the threshold, listening. The air that wafts up is damp, metallic, with the faint sweetness of rot. The flashlight beam can't cut through more than a few feet before the blackness swallows it whole. He descends anyway. Each step groans under his weight, echoing into the unseen depths. Drips of water strike the concrete floor somewhere below, steady as a clock. The walls narrow the further he goes, pressing close, suffocating. Creepy event. About halfway down, he spots handprints smeared along the wall, dark, greasy stains that trail down toward the bottom. They aren't just from hands. Some look like claw marks, as though someone dragged themselves down, scratching furrows into the stone. Others are tiny, child-sized, layered over and over, until the wall is black with them. At the bottom, the basement sprawls open into corridors lined with heavy steel doors. Each bears a number plate. Some hang loose on hinges, others sealed tight with locks melted by fire. The silence down here is so absolute that his own breath seems too loud, bouncing back at him. Weird, unrelated detail. A vending machine stands at the corner, out of place, its glass intact but warped with heat. Inside are rows of candy bars, perfectly preserved. He shines the light across them, and they shift. The wrappers crinkle, as if something inside is moving. Then one chocolate bar slides against the glass by itself, leaving behind a greasy smear. He presses forward, into the main chamber. The walls are lined with surgical freezers, long since powered down, doors ajar, but one is closed. Frost rims its edge. He brushes it away with his sleeve. The handle is ice cold. He yanks it open and it's empty, completely bare, but the floor inside is wet, footprints leading out, bare feet, damp and dark, trailing across the tiles into the shadows beyond. He follows, though every step screams at him to turn back. The prints lead to a door bolted from the outside. The bolts are rusted but loose, as if unfastened many times before. He pulls one free, then another. The final bolt clatters to the floor. The door creaks open with the sound of steel grinding on stone. Onside, the room is small, windowless. Chains dangle from the ceiling, swaying gently, though no draft stirs. In the center is a chair. Leather straps hang limp from its arms and legs, cracked with age. The footprints stop at the chair. He takes a step closer. The chair is warmed from behind him. A voice croaks, dry and broken. "Sit down." Creepy whispers crawl up the stairwell, hundreds of them rising like smoke. The air grows heavy, pressing on his chest. The door, behind, slams shut, leaving him alone with the chair and the chains that rattle now, faster, harder, as though something unseen tugs at them. He backs against the wall, fumbling for the glowing key in his pocket. It pulses like a heartbeat. The chains snap tight, and the chair tilts forward, as if inviting him to take a seat. "Can you guys get out of this basement alive, or is the hospital just waiting for its next patient?" The stairwell leading up from the basement feels endless, like he's climbing out of a pit, dug into the world's stomach. By the time he bursts through the final door, he's in the upper corridors of the hospital again, breath ragged, shirt damp with sweat. Relief floods him for a moment until he realizes where the door has spit him out. The rooftop access. The sign on the rusted door is half burnt, but the word ROF is still legible. He remembers the rumors. Patients in the old days used to sneak up there to smoke, to scream at the city, or to throw themselves off when the treatments got too much. No one had been allowed up there since. Creepy event. He pushes the door open. Cold night air slaps his face. The roof stretches wide, a broken sea of gravel and vents, ringed by a low parapet. The city skyline glimmers faintly in the distance, blurred by fog, but closer, just a few feet away. A figure stands at the edge, tall, motionless, a hospital gown flapping in the wind. It doesn't turn when he steps out. The wind picks up, whistling through the vents. His flashlight beam cuts across the figure, and the truth makes his stomach drop. The gown is shredded, and the body beneath is only half there, transparent, like smoke. The head tilts slowly, unnaturally far, until it's facing him without moving the shoulders. Its eyes are hollow pits, but from them drips something thick and black, streaking down its cheeks like tar. The thing raises an arm and points not at him, but past him, toward the stairwell door he just came from. Weird, unrelated detail. A small kite flutters across the rooftop, tangled in the gravel. Bright red, with a smiling sun painted on it. Every time the wind whips, the string jerks, as though someone invisible is still holding it down below. He turns back toward the stairwell door. It's closed. He swears he left it open. The handle rattles, once, twice, like someone testing it from the inside. Then slam. The whole frame shudders. Dust showers from the roof ledge. Something is pounding, desperate to get out. Impossible story 1. His flashlight flickers, and for an instant, he's not on the roof at all. He's in a children's ward, rows of cribs lining both sides, every one filled with dolls. Not babies, porcelain dolls with painted eyes, cracked and staring. When the light steadies, he's back on the roof. Impossible story 2. He hears music, faint, broken, like a record stuck. It's an old lullaby. The sound comes from the roof vent beside him. He kneels, presses an ear against the metal, and hears it clearer. Someone humming the tune, and underneath it, teeth chattering. Impossible story 3. The gravel under his feet shifts. He glances down and sees handprints appearing in the stones, not pressed from above, but rising from below, as if fingers are pushing up from the other side of the roof. The pounding on the stairwell grows frantic, louder, as though whatever is inside will splinter the door at any second. He runs across the roof, shoes crunching on gravel. the figure by the edge still pointing, always pointing. He doesn't dare look down into the fog below. At the far end, he finds another door, nearly hidden behind rusted ducts. The knob is frozen, but the glowing key in his pocket pulses again, brighter, almost urgent. He shoves it in, twists, and the door creaks open. Behind him, the stairwell door bursts wide, but he doesn't wait to see what comes through. He dives into the passage and slams the door shut. Darkness swallows him again, but the air is warmer here, less biting. Somewhere below, something is waiting. Can you guys even survive this roof chase? Or do you think the hospital's just herding you into the next trap? The narrow passage slopes downward, the walls pressing closer the deeper he goes. His breath fogs in the dim glow of his flashlight, the beam jittering with every step. At first, the corridor seems endless, but then a door looms into view, painted with faint murals. The colors are faded, but he can just make out smiling suns, cartoon animals, and cheerful flowers. A chill runs through him as the realization sinks in. The children's wing. The doorknob feels icy against his palm. It resists, then clicks open, groaning on rusty hinges. He steps inside, and the air changes. It's warmer here, almost stifling, with a faint scent of talcum powder mixed with something sour like spoiled milk. Rows of tiny beds stretch before him, each one draped with thin blankets. Some are neatly made, others look as if the children just slipped out a moment ago. His light catches toys scattered across the floor, wooden blocks, a stuffed rabbit with one eye missing, a ball that rolls lazily into the shadow. Creepy event. A faint giggle rises from the far end of the hall, high-pitched, playful. It echoes strangely, bouncing off the cracked walls. He freezes, then the giggle multiplies to voices. 3. A whole group of children laughing, unseen. The sound dances around him, teasing, mocking. Weird, unrelated detail. In the corner, an old rocking horse sways gently back and forth. No wind, no one near it. The faded paint on its face gives it a strange expression, half smile, half grimace. He walks farther, past the rows of beds. The laughter stops, replaced by a rhythmic tapping. His beam finds a child's chair, rocking slowly against the wall. Something is written in chalk across the plaster. Play with us. Impossible Story 1. As he shines the light into one crib, it's filled not with a blanket, but hundreds of moths. They scatter in a frenzy, their wings brushing his skin as they pour upward like smoke. He blinks, and the crib is empty again. Impossible Story 2. He passes a mirror bolted crookedly on the wall. His reflection isn't alone. Behind him, children stand in rows, pale, their eyes black voids. When he spins around, the room is empty, but the mirror still shows them staring. Impossible Story 3. He bends to pick up a toy block, but when his fingers close around it, it isn't with its teeth. Human molars arranged perfectly into a cube. He drops it, and it clatters like normal wood. A sudden bang startles him. One of the tiny beds has flipped over, legs sticking in the air. Then another, then another. Each bed slams itself down, metal shrieking, as though invisible children are hurling tantrums. The whole room trembles with the chaos. He bolts toward the far end of the ward. A mural stretches across the wall, children holding hands in a circle, smiling beneath a painted rainbow. But the paint is shifted, warped by time. Their faces look grotesque now, mouths stretched too wide, eyes to hollow dot. At the mural's base is another door. His flashlight flickers as he approaches. On the floor, alphabet blocks have been arranged neatly into words. Don't leave. One by one, the letters shuffle on their own, rearranging into stay forever. He doesn't wait to see more. The glowing key throbs in his pocket, almost urging him on. He thrusts it into the lock, twisting hard. The door swings open, revealing a staircase leading downward into blackness. Behind him, the laughter returns, louder, sharper. Dozens of voices now, shrieking, not with joy but with hunger. Tiny footsteps race across the floor, closing in fast. He leaps through the door and slams it shut, the sound of fists pounding against it echoing even as he descends. How far would you guys make it in this place, past the children's laughter? Or would you already be playing their little games forever? The staircase groans with every step as he descends, spiraling into shadow. The walls drip with condensation, the air cooler, metallic like the scent of rusted iron. When he reaches the bottom, the beam of his flashlight reveals a hallway that stretches impossibly far. Its ceiling arches high above, and the floor is slick, reflecting distorted shapes like a dark river. The sound here is overwhelming. Whispers slither along the corridor, overlapping, countless voices merging into a chorus of sorrow. Some cry, others plead, a few laugh softly, but the laughter breaks apart into sobbing. The cries come from all directions, behind the walls, beneath the floor, even inside the ceiling. He steps carefully, his shoes splashing in shallow puddles. Each splash echoes unnaturally long, like the water is bottomless. His flashlight shakes as he scans the walls. The paint is peeling, revealing layer after layer of scrawled words underneath. Names, hundreds of them, some carved with nails, others smeared in something darker than paint. Creepy event. Ahead, a wheelchair glides silently across the hall, moving against the slope of the floor. No one pushes it. The wheels squeak, then stop. It turns slowly toward him, as though it's watching. Weird detail. In the puddle beside him floats a single yellow balloon. It drifts lazily against the current of water, except there is no current. When it brushes the wall, it pops without sound, vanishing as though it was never there. He continues forward, the cries rising in volume. A sudden clang echoes from behind. He whirls. The staircase is gone. The corridor is seamless, endless. The way back erased. Impossible. Story 1. A woman's face appears in the wall beside him, pressing through plaster as though the surface is only fabric. Her mouth opens wide, whispering his name, though he never told it. He blinks, and the wall is plain again. Impossible. Story 2. The flashlight beam catches rows of doors lining the hall, each identical. One swings open slightly. Inside is another corridor, with him standing at the far end, staring back. His other self raises its flashlight at the exact same time. Impossible. Story 3. He places his hand on the wall for balance, and feels a pulse beneath his palm. The entire corridor throbs like a vein, as if he's walking inside something alive. The cries grow sharper, now like wailing children and growling beasts layered together. The lights overhead dim, flickering bulbs sputter one by one. Darkness spreads behind him, swallowing the hall. He runs. Doors slam open on either side as he passes. He glimpses fleeting scenes, a man strapped to a bed, screaming, a figure hanging upside down, swaying, a nurse with hollow eyes sharpening scissors. The doors slam shut before he can look twice. Ahead, the hall twists, bending like it's alive. The puddles stretch into streams, swirling with black liquid. The whispers chant something now. He can't make out the words, but the rhythm is like a prayer. Finally, a glimmer, a faint light at the far end of the hall. He charges toward it, every breath ragged. Behind him, footsteps thunder. Not one, said dozens, hundreds. The cries transform into screams, chasing him down. He slams against a heavy door bathed in pale light. His trembling hands fumble for the glowing key. The lock resists, the screams closing in. Closer, closer. With one last shove, the key twists. The door flies open, and he stumbles through. The door slams shut, silencing everything. He collapses to his knees, gasping. The corridor of cries is gone. But what waits beyond this new door? Can you guys imagine being stuck in that hole forever? Hearing those voices crawl into your head, until you couldn't tell which were yours. The door creaks open, spilling him into a chamber colder than ice. The air is heavy, thick with the scent of damp stone and something faintly sweet, like wilted flowers left too long in a vase. He steadies himself, lifting the flashlight, and the beam slices through the gloom to reveal metal drawers lining both walls. Each drawer bears a small brass plate, but the names etched there are scratched out, leaving only jagged scars in the metal. The morgue. The temperature sinks further, his breath fogging in front of him. He wipes at the condensation on his flashlight, but the mist only grows thicker, like the air itself is rejecting his presence. The silence here is suffocating until it isn't. Creepy event. One of the drawers slides open slowly, no hand touching it. The scraping metal shrieks in the silence. Inside, a pale sheet stirs, as though something beneath it is breathing. He freezes. The sheet rises, falls, then collapses flat again. Weird detail. A stuffed toy rabbit sits on top of one of the drawers, its button eyes mismatched, one teal, one russet. It shouldn't be here, not in a morgue. When he blinks, the rabbit's head is turned toward him, the button eyes glinting faintly in the dim light. He edges along the rows, every step echoing like a drumbeat. The drawers begin to rattle, first one, then another. Soon, all of them are shaking violently, their brass plates clanging together in a discordant symphony. He clamps his hands over his ears, but the sound drills through his skull. Impossible Story 1. The drawers burst open in unison, sheets flying upward like sails. Figures sit up inside, hundreds of them, eyes glowing faintly, mouths open in silent screams. He blinks, and the drawers are closed again, silent, as if nothing ever happened. Impossible Story 2. He shines the light across the wall and sees himself lying in one of the drawers, pale and motionless. His chest rises once shallowly, then stops. The flashlight flickers and the vision vanishes. Impossible Story 3. A whisper crawls out of the air vents, not in English, not in any language he knows, but somehow he understands. You've been here before. The flashlight dims, sputters, then flares back. The walls seem closer now, the rows of drawers pressing in. He stumbles toward the far end of the chamber, where a single door waits. But it's not ordinary, it's made of glass, and behind it is a faint glow, warm, inviting, impossibly out of place. As he nears the door, the cold deepens, stabbing into his bones. The stuffed rabbit has moved, now perched on the handle, as though guarding the way forward. Its stitched smile stretches wider than fabric should allow. The man swallows hard, clutching the glowing key once more. His hands tremble, the key slick with sweat. The drawers rattle again, louder this time. Sheets rustle, breathing fills the room, dozens of ragged wet inhalations. He jams the key into the lock. The rabbit tumbles to the floor, landing face up, its button eyes staring blankly. The drawers slam open behind him, every one of them. He doesn't dare look. He twists the key. The lock clicks. The glass door swings inward, spilling golden light across the cold floor. Without thinking, he dives through, slamming it shut behind him. Silence again, but it isn't comforting. The morgue may be behind him now, but something followed. Can you guys even imagine lying down in one of those drawers, hearing the lid slide shut, knowing there's no one left to open it again? The golden glow floods his eyes, forcing him to squint after the suffocating darkness of the morgue. He stumbles forward, blinking rapidly, until the scene around him takes shape. The room is vast, cavernous, yet eerily bare. The walls, floor, and even the high-arched ceiling are covered entirely in mirrors. Each polished surface gleams faintly in the dim light, reflecting back endless versions of himself at different angles. At first, the sight is almost comforting. After so much shadow, at least there's light here. But comfort doesn't last long. Creepy event. His reflection does not move in unison. When he raises his hand, only half of the mirrors follow. In the others, his reflection lags, hesitates, or simply stares blankly back at him, as though watching him rather than copying. He takes a step forward. The sound echoes strangely, like a dozen feet are moving at once. From the corners of his vision, he swears he sees one of his reflections turn its head just slightly sideways, unnatural, like an owl. When he snaps his gaze toward it, the reflection corrects itself instantly, feigning innocence. Weird detail. One mirror in the far corner is fogged over with condensation, as if something inside is breathing heavily against the glass. He wipes at it, but the mist reforms immediately, obscuring what lies beyond. He moves deeper into the room, heartbeat hammering, flashlight beams scattering off the mirrors in blinding shards. It's like walking into a kaleidoscope, dizzying and disorienting. Every direction looks the same. He turns left, then right, and can no longer tell which way he entered. Impossible Story 1. One reflection suddenly steps out of its frame, planting a foot onto the mirrored floor. The glass ripples like water, and for a heartbeat, a second version of himself is standing in the room. He gasps, and when he blinks, the reflection is gone. Impossible Story 2. A child's face appears in one of the mirrors, pressed against the glass, mouth wide open in laughter, though no sound escapes. When he leans closer, the child slams its tiny fists against the inside of the mirror, cracking the surface. By the time he pulls back, the mirror is smooth again. Impossible Story 3. In one panel, he sees himself but not as he is now. He's older, face gaunt, eyes sunken, wearing the hospital gown of a patient rather than a visitor. His lips move silently, but the words are clear. Don't trust the light. He spins, panic clawing at his throat. The golden glow he saw earlier is gone. The mirrors provide their own light now, a silvery gleam that shimmers across every surface. His flashlight flickers uselessly, unable to compete. He tries walking straight, but each step feels like circling back to the same place. The reflections toy with him, some move faster, some slower, some not at all. He presses his palms to the cool glass, searching for a seam, a way out. But the walls stretch endlessly in all directions. The sound of footsteps joins his own. Too many, 1,000 feet tapping softly against mirrored floors. He whirls around, but every reflection stares back with the same wide-eyed terror. Then, one reflection smiles. Just one. A thin, crooked grin that spreads too wide. Its teeth are sharp, glistening, nothing like his. He stumbled backward, colliding with another wall of glass. More reflections begin to smile, one by one, until dozens of him grin with predatory hunger. He whispers to himself, but the sound comes back multiplied. Layered hundreds of whispers overlapping into a low, humming chant. Words he can't quite decipher, but the tone is clear, taunting, mocking, hungry. A sudden crack splits the silence. A mirror on his left shatters, pieces raining down like shards of ice. But instead of breaking onto the floor, the fragments hang in the air, suspended, reflecting endless screaming faces. The golden key burns in his pocket. He yanks it out, gripping it like a lifeline. The mirrors flicker, dozens of his reflections jerking back as though repelled. He thrusts the key toward one of the grinning reflections, and the glass melts away, revealing a narrow door. Without thinking, he bolts through, slamming it behind him. The whispers cut off abruptly, leaving only his own ragged breathing, but the silence feels worse. Can you guys even handle 1,000 versions of yourself staring, smiling, and whispering at the same time? Or would you just pick one and run with it? He bursts through the narrow door, and immediately feels cold air whip against his face. The change is so sudden it steals his breath. One moment he was suffocating in the mirrored chamber, the next he's standing on an exposed rooftop beneath a bruised midnight sky. The hospital stretches out below him, sprawling like a labyrinth of decayed wings and collapsed courtyards. From this height, the entire place resembles a corpse sprawled across the earth arms, outstretched ribs caved in, head fractured open. The realization makes his stomach twist. Creepy event. The rooftop tiles crunch underfoot, brittle and warped from years of neglect. As he steadies himself, he notices shadows moving across the surface. Not clouds, not bird shapes, far too thin, elongated, crawling on hands and knees. They scuttle along the rooftop's edge, black silhouettes against the dim sky. But when he shines his flashlight on them, the beam passes straight through. Weird detail. He looks down at his own shadow and realizes it doesn't match. His body stands trembling, flashlight raised, but the shadow beneath him is hunched low, fingers clawing outward, mouth wide open in a silent scream. He steps back. His shadow doesn't follow. Impossible Story 1. From one of the upper chimneys, a figure unfolds itself, impossibly long arms spilling out first, then a crooked spine, then a head that swivels all the way around before settling its gaze on him. Its eyes glow faint red, like coals left smoldering in a dying fire. He blinks, and the chimney is empty, but ash drips down the sides as though something had just crawled free. Impossible Story 2. Across the rooftop, he spots another man standing perfectly still, facing away. Relieved, he shouts for help, but when the man slowly turns, he sees his own face, pale and blank, with no eyes or mouth. The figure raises a hand in greeting, and dozens of similar silhouettes rise behind it. He nearly trips as he stumbles backward. Impossible Story 3. In the distance, far beyond the asylum, he sees the horizon ripple like heat haze. Then the entire city beyond the walls shifts, as though it's just a painted backdrop being pulled aside. Behind it, only black void remains. The wind intensifies, carrying whispers, not voices, but the sound of fabric tearing, like hundreds of sheets being ripped apart. He realizes it's the sound of the shadows peeling themselves free from the rooftop. One by one, they detach from the tiles and stand upright. Dozens of eyeless forms, thin and wavering but growing more solid with each second. He tries the door, again locked. The golden key burns against his palm, but this time it doesn't fit the handle. The shadows creep closer, their bodies stretching unnaturally tall. Their heads tilt in unison, like puppets awaiting a signal. Suddenly, one of them lunges forward, face first, and slams into the ground where his feet had just been. The tiles dent inward, though no physical body should have weight. Another follows, and another, forcing him back toward the crumbling edge of the rooftop. Weirdest detail. He glances over the ledge and sees not the ground below, but an endless vertical shaft of hospital corridors, stacked on top of one another, floors, looping infinitely downward, lights flickering in sync like a heartbeat. The shadows close in, circling him now. His flashlight sputters, then dies completely. The only glow comes from faint red embers deep within the shadows, hollow heads. His pulse roars in his ears. The key, it's his only chance. Desperate, he lifts it high above his head. The moment he does, the rooftop shudders, cracking like thin ice. Shadows scatter, clawing at the air as the tiles collapse beneath his feet. He plummets into the abyss, but he doesn't fall into darkness. Instead, he slams down onto solid ground, gasping, knees bruised but alive. The air is damp, heavy, filled with the faint drip of water. He looks around. He's in a cellar, a morgue, and somehow, impossibly, he's right back where he started. Do you think the shadows pushed him down on purpose? Or were they showing him that no matter how far he runs, this place always pulls him back? The stink of formaldehyde hits him first. That bitter, chemical temps creeps down his throat and forces him to cough. When he wipes his mouth, the taste of rust lingers, though he's sure he hasn't bitten his tongue. He staggers upright, flashlight dead in his hand, golden key still clenched tight. The morgue is just as he remembers. Stiff memory can be trusted here. Steel drawers line both walls, labels peeled away, handles corroded with age. Some of the doors bulge outward slightly, as though something inside is pushing against them. The overhead lights flicker, humming faintly like bees in a jar. Creepy event. One of the drawers clicks open with a metallic snap, and a pale hand slips free. The skin is waxy, fingers curled inward, fingernails cracked and blackened. He freezes, but the hand doesn't fall, it hovers, suspended mid-air, still attached to whatever lurks inside. Then another drawer creaks, then another, until the sound becomes unbearable. A chorus of squealing metal as dozens of compartments crack open all at once. Weird detail. He notices that the toe tags dangling from the drawers are all handwritten in thick, uneven ink. Each bears the same name, his own. Different dates, different places, but always him. One says he drowned in 1987. Another lists unknown fire in 1993. Another, disappearance, 2025. His stomach twists violently. Impossible story. One drawer bursts open and a body slumps halfway out, face covered by a cloth. Before he can react, the cloth slides away on its own, revealing a perfect copy of his face, size wide open, lips moving silently. He leans closer and hears the faintest whisper, "Stay still. They can't see you if you don't move." Then the body jerks violently and vanishes, leaving only an empty slab. Impossible story 2. The lights flicker and suddenly every drawer is open. The morgue fills with hundreds of figures standing upright, identical copies of himself. Their faces are blank, mouths opening and closing, hands twitching at their sides. He blinks, and they're gone. The drawers are closed again, but the hum of whispered breath still lingers. Impossible story 3. From the corner, he hears wheels squeaking. A gurney rolls forward by itself, a covered body laid across it. As it stops in front of him, the sheet deflates, collapsing as though nothing rests beneath it. When he pulls the sheet back, he sees a mirror, perfectly polished, reflecting his terrified face. But in the reflection, something behind him is reaching out. His breath comes fast now, uneven. He clutches the golden key, but it feels heavier, dragging his arm down as though it doesn't want to be lifted. The drawers rattle violently, banging open and shut. One bursts completely, sending the slab clattering to the floor with a clang. The body inside lands inches from his feet. Its chest rises once, twice. Then its eyes snap open, pupils glowing faint green. He bolts, sprinting past the rows of drawers, past the flickering lights. But every corridor leads back to the same room. He finds himself circling, always returning to the morgue, as if the place has folded in on itself. Weirdest detail. He notices a chalkboard propped in the corner, scrawled in sloppy white letters, "You're late for your own autopsy." His pulse hammers in his skull. He can't tell if it's the morgue shaking or his own body ready to collapse. The golden key warms again in his hand. A door materializes at the far end of the room, glowing faintly, waiting for him. But the corpses aren't still anymore. They crawl from their slabs, staggering toward him, their movements stiff, jerky, like puppets pulled by tangled strings. Some wear surgeons' masks, others hospital gowns stained with dark patches, their mouths open wide, and from every throat comes the same sound, the squeal of rusted hinges. He makes a break for the door, corpses swarming behind him, hands clawing at his clothes, fingers brush his arm, his back, his neck cold, damp, unyielding. He throws himself forward, slamming the golden key into the lock. The moment the door clicks open, the morgue erupts in one deafening roar, 100 voices screaming his name. He stumbles through, and falls again, this time, into silence. Do you think the morgue was showing him the many ways he could die, or reminding him he already has? He lands hard, rolling across cold stone. When he scrambles to his feet, the door has already vanished. No key, no handle, no light, just the echo of his own panicked breathing. The silence here feels different, not empty, but listening. The chamber stretches downward in impossible angles. Stairs spiral into the dark, each step slick with damp moss. He takes one cautious step, then another, the sound of his shoes tapping faintly against the stone. The deeper he goes, the colder the air becomes, until his breath plumes before him like pale smoke. Creepy event. A faint chanting rises from below, dozens of voices murmuring in an ancient rhythm. He doesn't recognize the words, yet the cadence sinks into his chest like a second heartbeat. The deeper he follows the sound, the louder it becomes, until it drowns even his thoughts. Weird detail. Carved into the walls are crude drawings, etched by hand, staircases that lead nowhere, figures without faces, doors that open into mouths. Each carving is smeared with a different pigment: indigo, saffron, russet, yet none of the colors should have survived so vividly underground. Impossible. Story 1. He rounds a bend and sees himself walking up the stairs toward him, carrying a lantern. Their eyes meet, and the other version whispers, "You've already gone too far." Then, in an instant, that version shatters into 1,000 moths, fluttering away into the dark. Impossible. Story 2. At the base of the stairs, he finds a massive wooden door, iron-banded, glowing faintly. He places the golden key into the lock, but instead of opening, the door breathes wooden panels rising and falling like lungs. When he pulls the key free, a sigh rattles through the stairwell. Impossible. Story 3. He closes his eyes for just a second. When he opens them again, he's no longer standing, but floating above the stairwell. The spiral plunges endlessly below, with no bottom. The chanting grows louder, forming his name in every syllable. He blinks, and suddenly he's back on solid ground, sweating, key in hand. He knows there's no turning back. With trembling fingers, he pushes the key into the final lock. The door shudders once, twice, and then swings open into a blinding radiance. Inside, there is no morgue, no corridor, no stairwell, only a vast plain of black water, stretching beyond the horizon. The chanting fades, the silence returns. A small boat waits at the water's edge. In it, a hooded figure sits motionless, holding out one pale hand, as if inviting him aboard. The golden key dissolves from his grip into dust, carried away on a wind that doesn't exist. He steps forward. The water ripples. The hooded figure tilts its head, and he cannot tell if it is smiling or weeping. He climbs into the boat. The figure pushes off, and together they drift into the dark, leaving the stairwell, the hospital, and every echo behind. And maybe, just maybe, that's where the story ends. Or maybe that's where it begins again. Can you guys make it out of this hospital alive? Or do you think you've already taken the ride? But before you drift away tonight, let's set aside the screams and the shadows for something softer. Imagine the hospital quiet now. Its walls no longer whispering, its halls finally still. The fluorescent lights, instead of flickering, hum with a steady glow. And the rooms that once echoed with footsteps are empty, peaceful, almost gentle. Picture the stairwell again, but not as a descent into fear. This time, it winds downward into a garden. Vines creep along the stone, but they carry blossoms instead of moss. The air is cool, scented faintly with lavender and rain. At the base, there's no locked door. No corpses waiting, only a wide meadow opening beneath a star-filled sky. You walk barefoot across soft grass, the night air brushing cool against your skin. The shadows here aren't menacing. They're protective, folding around you like a blanket. Each breath grows slower, deeper. Your heartbeat softens, finding a rhythm with the quiet world around you. And in the distance, you hear a stream trickling gently. Water over stones, carrying away everything heavy you've held all day. You sit beside it, dipping your hands into the cool water, and let it wash through you. There's no rush, no fear, just stillness, just calm. Tonight, you don't need to escape the hospital. You don't need to survive the morgue. Tonight, you get to rest. The world will wait for you until morning, so close your eyes, breathe deeply, and let yourself drift. The story is over now. You're safe. Sleep well.